There's an NPC by the gates there that says Dungeon Guide. He's got a little symbol over his head.
The big gate.
That's a big gate here, and underneath his name is Gardener. If everybody can come up to where we are and click on the NPC Dungeon Guide, and when you click on him, it'll bring up a little map on the top. Let me know when you guys are all there.
I'm here.
I'm also on the map.
Okay. I'm gonna go first. The blue dot that says number 8, and that's Golden Dragon Ruins. Again, this is a higher level dungeon. You really need to be at least level 8 to get into this dungeon, but hopefully on these characters we should be very well equipped. And we'll meet you on the inside there. Okay, while we're kind of standing here, it looks like a couple of you have figured it out, but if you use the / button down by the right shift key, that's how you equip and unequip your weapons. That's an important thing as you run through the game. So one of the great things about Wizardry, in my opinion, is it keeps you very active in the game when you're doing combat. It's not like some MMOs where you just push the attack button and kind of walk away from your keyboard. You're going to be very active while you're doing combat. When you're in combat, you want to obviously keep your weapon equipped. Take a look at the keys on the bottom, the icons. So number 1 is set up for you to do your base attack, but you have to push it every time you want to swing your weapon. Then you also have some abilities down there. Later on, we're going to go through parts of the dungeon where you actually want to navigate, and you want to be very careful not to fall off walkways and stuff like that. And you're going to want to make sure you sheathe your weapons by, again, pushing the /. So that's how you equip and unequip your weapon. So everyone wants to give that a try. Equip their weapon, unequip their weapon. You'll notice when your weapon is equipped and in your hand, and you hit the space bar, you jump backwards.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a maneuver to get away from the monsters that you're fighting. When you go ahead and put your weapon away and you hit the space bar, you jump up as part of navigating to move around the world. So go ahead and draw your weapons and follow us. We're going to head out and do a few basic monsters to start off, just to get make sure everyone's familiar with combat. Now again, in combat, you're going to want to use the tab key to target the monsters, and that will keep you focused on those monsters. You want to make sure you're within range, and then use your number keys to do your basic attack and some of your special abilities. So go ahead on out here, guys. There's a few monsters out here. Go ahead and use the tab to target them and run out and see if you can take them on. Nice, using some abilities there. Whoa! We got some powerful mages in this group, huh?
I guess we have a player killer behind us.
Oh, we do have a player killer behind us.
Oh my God.
Anybody want to do some PvP?
Kill him! Kill him!
Yeah. Yeah, just be ready to defend yourself if he attacks us. All right, so you might have noticed also, when we ran out here, there was a little exclamation mark that came over our heads. Go ahead and jump in and help out here, guys. Oh, never mind. That was too easy. When there's an exclamation point over your head, that means there's a trap nearby. Usually you can spot the trap as a little orange dot on the ground, but otherwise, the ground should look exactly the same, because the idea of a trap is you don't know where it is. And keep in mind that a lot of the environment here, a lot of the effects that are going on, is trying to keep the nostalgia of the wizardry genre. Yeah, I mean, what I'm trying to do, and tell me if I'm going too fast, or if you guys have questions along the way. I'm just trying to through this like I would with an actual press demo. Okay, so come on over here by this little post that's sticking up here with the blue glowing ball on the top. We're going to go to the next area. This was really just some basic mobs. As you notice, they respawn very fast. That happens all throughout the game of Wizardry. because these dungeons are open to everybody, as you see by the PvP player behind us, the monsters respawn fast so that there's always enough stuff for everyone to take on if the dungeon's crowded. So go ahead and click on that post and then follow us here. And we've got a couple bigger NPCs to kill. We'll see how you mages do this time. All right, go ahead. Those of you that are here, go ahead and start attacking those creatures. Make sure you equip your weapon. There you go.
Which is the key to equip the weapon?
If you have a mouse with a wheel on it, if you press the wheel button, that will.
It's the it's the middle button over the mouse.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's universal. But you're right. Yeah, I didn't think about that. We might have some differences on the keyboards. Whoa, that creature is tougher. You guys are doing all right, though. Yeah, send that out of heal. Okay, good job. You guys are doing good. And again, this first dungeon we're in right now is just to kind of give the basics of how combat works. You guys seem to be doing very well. You understand your spells and how to maneuver in combat, how to hit the tab key. But again, what we're really trying to show is how combat is engaging. You can't walk away from your keyboard when you're in combat. You need to be actively hitting your keys, being aware of the monster. One thing you will notice, we're giving you heals, but when you take damage in Wizardry, you don't recover that damage after the fight. When you're casting your spells, you're not recovering your mana points after the fight. And that's intentional. It's very different than typical MMOs where you do your fight and everything regenerates over time. And we'll get a little bit more into that in this next dungeon where we're going to show you how camps work. So come on over here to this next staff. And go ahead and touch the object. We've got one more area in this dungeon, and we're going to introduce a little bit of the idea of puzzles and how you have to go and solve puzzles in each dungeon to try to advance to the next stage, as well as some of the additional obstacles, fire traps and things like that you have to go. So if you check out in the corner over here, there's a pedestal, and when you examine it, it's gonna start giving you text that talks about different. Now we've solved this puzzle for everybody so that we don't have to, because sometimes solving the puzzles in a dungeon can take quite a while. This particular one, we actually had to do some math to figure out the puzzle. The very first dungeon when you play, fairly easy. Go push a button, find 4 statues, push the buttons, and you're done. As you progress through the game, the puzzles get more difficult. Sometimes you have to follow storylines and answer questions about them. Some of them are more difficult puzzles, like this one was kind of a math-type puzzle. So anyway, that's the puzzle, and that's how you progress further on into the game. When you just ran through the fire here, I think it looks like a couple of you caught on fire. There is the ability to have your character duck, and that's by hitting the X key. There's also an icon to show how you kind of squat. Yeah, there you go. A couple of guys are doing it. Or you want to do timing, and it's very physics based. So you want to make sure when you see a trap or you notice like fire coming out of a trap, you either wait or you try to avoid it. All right. So let's head up here, and we're going to go to the boss area. Go ahead and click on the statue here, and we're going to take you into it. This is now going to be an instance area for just our group. So the 4 of us are going to be able to go, and Nero, whoever's playing Nero, you can go in also, and you can actually probably beat it by yourself. So give it a try. If not, you can test out the permadeath scenario. Yeah, these characters are buff enough. You should be able to take it. But go ahead and everybody click on there, and then we'll jump in. Oh, right. So, I think only Warren is playing and he doesn't have a shield. Oh, no, you're right.
The mages could do that.
Rowena can. So, Rowena, you're playing a character that has a shield equipped. Sorry, I'm calling you guys by your character names. When you hit the left shift key, Right, there you go. You're blocking.
Yeah, I know.
And you're actually able to mitigate damage, and your shield actually absorbs the damage. So that's a very important feature, especially in the lower level characters where you don't have a lot of hit points, is to play with the shield equipped until you get the basics down. You block when the NPC is attacking you, and you kind of have to do some timing. You watch when they attack and when they don't, and then you go ahead and swing at them when they're not attacking you. So something to try out. All right, so come on in a little farther, and you will see we're facing a bigger creature here. This is a boss fight. Again, our characters are leveled up, so this should be a fairly simple boss fight. But nicely done. Nice.
Easy one.
And then you get a message saying, "Hey, you cleared the dungeon." And you have to leave the instance area. So the boss fights aren't quite as easily repeatable. You can still go back out, click the statue, and go back in. But a lot of players, what we found in the Japan version as well as here in our beta, play through the dungeon multiple times because the items that you find on the NPCs are common items for the most part, and then occasionally you'll get a rare item. So most people, you can repeat the quests. You can play through the dungeon multiple times. So there's a lot of that. I mean, typical of MMO stuff. But that also creates some of the fun, seeing can you go through it by yourself? How many friends do you need? We're on buffed characters in a group of 4, so we're doing pretty well. But playing through solo can be very challenging. Okay, so we're back in town. We've cleared a dungeon. When you're playing the game and your character's gaining experience in each dungeon, you won't be able to recover hit points, you won't be able to recover magic points, or level up while you're in the dungeon. There are camps that you can buy, and you can set up a camp in a dungeon. And basically what that is you kind of have to find a safe corner. You take a time out. We'll do that in the next dungeon to show you exactly how it works. But you basically have to sit down at your camp, shoot, put your weapon away, and over a period of about 20 or 30 seconds, then you recover hit points and mana. To level up your character, you have to come back to town and find an innkeeper, and then you choose what type of room you want to stay in based on how much gold you're willing to spend, and you rest. And while you're resting, your character will level up. So the idea is, to sell your items, to identify any items you found, level up your character. All of that needs to happen back in town. So the idea is very much old school Dungeons and Dragons, sticking with the wizardry genre again, of making you feel like you're really playing a wizardry game. You go to the dungeons, you adventure, you find stuff, you come back to town on a frequent basis to recover and sell your stuff and pick up new quests.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're jumping into we're jumping into another dungeon now, and this dungeon is called Chikor Castle. All right, so now this dungeon is going to be a little more of a platform type dungeon where there's going to be places where we have to walk and be careful of not falling off, traps we need to jump over. This is a pretty cool dungeon. We got a couple fights first, and then we'll get to the platforming area. So there are NPCs in the dungeon. There's an NPC right up here, and you can get quests while you're in the dungeon often. When you go to town, though, you're going to want to make sure you collect quests there as well, because some quests are only available from NPCs in the town. So go ahead and talk to this NPC if you guys want. There's a couple other players. We always run into several other players in this dungeon, so don't be alarmed if you see a few other players running around. All right, and let's move on here. Again, we're skipping a lot of the storyline, a lot of the puzzle stuff in these dungeons. It is a very important part of the game, but to give a relatively fast press tour, within a half hour, we have to have a lot of that completed for you. But definitely storyline is a fun part of the game. Finishing these quests is a fun part of the game. Figuring out the puzzles. Go ahead and unequip your weapons, and we've got some kobolds in here. The thing you want to be aware of with kobolds is they tend to jump around and get behind you. And there's no backstab skill per se that they use. It's all based on relative physics and where they are. And when they're behind you, they will do damage for significantly more than when they're fighting in front of you. Again, when you're playing in a group, it's pretty safe, but when you're playing solo, you want to make sure you have a shield equipped and you're back to a wall.
Oh.
All right, we got another fight up here. Uh-oh.
Nah, I did the job, guys.
Okay, come on into this next room, and then we're gonna everyone come over here by us, and we're gonna actually set up one of the camps. So camps are something you can buy in town. What we're doing here is you're gonna want to put your weapon away so that you can benefit from the camp. If you see the aura around us right now, we're actually summoning the camp. So now there we are. Watch your characters. Your hit points will go up. Your mana points will go up for those of you that have been casting spells. Again, the camp doesn't last very long, so it's not that long of a time. But definitely as you're adventuring through dungeons, you're going to want to have a share of camps. Hopefully a group of people that also have camps so you can share the responsibility because they can be expensive. There's different types of camps. There are camps that are obviously cost more, but they regenerate more hit points, more mana. You'll also have health potions and stuff like that, but camps are really effective, especially when you're in a group, because they affect everybody at the same time. All right, guys, get your weapons out. We've got some kobolds here that are pretty tough, and they respawn very fast, so watch your backs. We'll try to give you some heals. Go ahead and run down and oh,
I need help here.
There you go, we got you. All right, come on over to the other side, and we'll head up this ramp. Like I said, kobolds are tough, and you guys are on some pretty tough characters, too. Oh, no! Rowena bit the dust. So, when you do die, there are two chances to resurrect. Your first one gives you a percentage, and it's usually not to your benefit to try to sacrifice any of your items at that time, and just give it a shot and see if it works. However, if you fail to resurrect your character the very first time, you definitely want to make the second opportunity 100% sure. Because if you fail the second time, then your character's gone. And what the game allows you to do is it allows you to put items from your inventory into the UI window that pops up, and you basically sacrifice some of the items from your inventory as an homage to the gods, to make sure that you resurrect 100%. So where we are now is we're at part of the game where you have to do a little more platforming. If you hold the left shift key while you're running and then hit the space bar to jump, you actually run and jump a little bit faster, and that's the way you get from one chunk of rock here to the other. All right, so we've got a couple more fights to go through here. We're just going to run down. But we just wanted to show you guys this area so you can see some of the other platforming stuff and, the dangers that you avoid by using your skills to run and jump. And go ahead and see if you can make it over to us. If not, you feel free to run down the bottom. Nice job. Again, this is so there are 4 classes in the game. There's fighters, mages, thieves, and priests. As you can see running through here, it's kind of advantageous to have one of each. The warriors are typically good at taking damage, blocking damage. The mages are great at range damage. It's always good to have a priest to give group heals like we're doing. And then thieves come in handy. Now, I would warn you to be careful. We're going to climb up a few ladders here. So go ahead and follow us. Ladders are pretty easy to fall off of. We have had a few press folks die at this part of the tour, but it's still a fun piece of tour. It's, again, showing the platforming capabilities of the game, climbing up ladders, staying on paths. This next creature that we're going to fight, it is possible to kill him by pushing him off the ledge. However, the same is true for you, so make sure that this creature doesn't push you off the ledge. Got everyone up here? All right. So go ahead and equip your weapons and run out and go ahead and take this guy on. See if you guys can shove him off the ledge or kill him the normal way. So some NPCs have items on them and some don't. It's random. I think we've experienced a few loot traps. Go ahead and jump down here. We're going to fight a few more zombies. These guys should be fairly routine. They respawn very fast. Well, we're gonna jump back to town and show you a few other cool features of the game. We're getting to a point here where we're backtracking a little bit in the dungeon before we go to the next area. So because we're kind of, but again, running through the dungeons, it's all about the combat, about the random loot drops, and the process of recovery. The thing that makes Wizardry so much different than other MMOs out there is, the compelling nature of the whole genre of Wizardry, and how this game is staying true to all those past games, and it's sticking close to original Dungeons and Dragons type gameplay, where you need to recover hit points by either heal potions, someone healing you, or jumping back to town. But you also take a lot less damage typically. When you play a game like EverQuest 2 or WoW and you're in a fight, you almost die and you heal back up. In this game, you just take a little bit of damage at a time, but you just need to watch where you are. So anyway, we're back in town. Again, in town is where you level up your character. Throughout the dungeons, when you find items, most of the time those items are unidentified. So you either need to have things in your backpack that will allow you to identify items, or you need to take them back to town. You take them over to the shopkeeper, and you have to pay him to identify your items. If you guys want to follow us, we'll take you over to the temple. Now, besides your character leveling up, and you gain new abilities on your character, have you guys leveled up your own characters at all? Have you seen the skill tree? If you hit on the UI on the bottom, the symbol that looks kind of like a 8-pointed star, it says skill tree. And every time you level, you get a point to put into the skill tree. And each class has 2 different branches. And the thief, which none of us are playing the thief right now, but a thief actually has 3 different branches. And then, of course, you have skills within each branch that you want to choose. So each character, each class can really customize their character quite differently. You're not going to get enough points to choose all of these skills. So I just wanted to point that out because that's a big part of character development as you go on. Mm-hmm. Now here in the temple, what happens is as you progress so many levels within your character, you also level up your soul. And the concept of a soul is that it keeps track of the storylines in the quest. When you level up your soul, you can then go and create another character on your account, and that character will have the same soul level as your first character. So it's a way for you to basically create a new character that's kind of already buffed. You won't have to go through all of the storyline if you don't want to. You'll have some benefits from a higher level soul. If you click on one of the priests here, they can show you some of the stuff about your soul. If you look at the second right icon, which says equip and status on the bottom, there's a tab. It brings up your character and it brings up your backpack, but there's a tab on the top that's marked soul. Everybody see that? Mm-hmm. And that shows you your rank. It shows you some of if you show blessings, it shows you some of the actual skills that you have.
Bonuses.
You have
soul rank bonus.
For each soul rank, you have different bonuses you get. And again, it's great for your existing character, but those bonuses also apply to any new characters you create. So it's really the game's way of saying, hey, you've invested time into the game. We want you to be able to try out a different class or a brand new character, a different race. So you get to keep these benefits from the gameplay you've already done. The other point with soul is, if by some slim chance your character permanently dies, you can still keep that soul rank. Still keep the ability to create a new character at a more advanced rate than if you had to start up the game brand from scratch. You also can earn points here in the temple when you rank up your soul, and you apply those points to certain things within the game, other special abilities. It's just another way to customize your character. So let me know if you have any questions about all that. It's certainly an added level of complication that's not found in most MMOs, but it's a pretty cool feature. So here if you follow us over here, we're at an inn now. When you click on the NPC in the inn, you'll notice you have quite a variety of a room to rest in. You really only rest for a few seconds. And really what this is doing is saying, hey, how much gold do you want to spend to level up your character? The better room you get, the better chance you have of doing more increased points to your skills and to your hit points and to your mana points. So it's always advantageous to wait till you have enough gold to at least go halfway up the totem pole there for a good room. Because there's a random chance every time you level up that you'll gain or lose points on all of your different skills. Again, let me know if that makes sense. So unlike, right, and all other MMOs that I'm aware of, every time you level up, every character gets the same change in their character, right? You're playing a druid in a regular MMO and you level up, you automatically get X points, X skill points. It's very, very straightforward for all players across the board. In Wizardry, it's not. There's a random chance as well as the player input for how their level up is going to occur. So again, trying to keep the game very dynamic, customized for everybody. Okay, so the last piece that we want to talk about with you guys is player versus player stuff. In the game of Wizardry, anybody has the option to engage in PvP. That option comes when you hit Soul Rank 2. When you engage in player versus player activities, you'll start to glow red, as you saw a few of the characters in the game do. When your characters are glowing red, can we lead them over to the poor area? What is it called? The slums?
Shady.
The shady part of town. Yeah, so if you follow us, we're going to take you to the shady part of town. And the reason there's a shady part of town is because if you're engaged in player versus player activity, your character will start to glow red, and at some point the guards won't let you do anything in town. If they see you, they'll capture you and take you to jail. Then you have to spend a fair amount of time in jail. So there's a shady part of town where there are no guards. So players that have engaged in criminal activity can come over here, and there's an inn, there's a shop. It's not necessarily the nicest shop or the nicest inn, and there is no temple in the shady part of town. So while you can level up your character, you can buy and sell items, you can't level up your soul, because the only place to do that is in the temple. So thieves have the ability to sneak into the temple, but fighters, mages, and priests do not. So it's a very risky thing to start killing other players, stealing loot from other players, because you're then limited to where you can go. Now, over time, if you come up here, you can see some of the players glowing red over here. Over time, if you no longer commit criminal activities, your faction will start to go down, and eventually you'll become a normal player again.
Tell them he might get killed.
Yeah, right. So be careful around these guys, because when you come into the slums, the obvious risk you run is that the players that are criminals are going to see you as a target. The other disadvantage to engaging in PvP activity, though, is that normal players can kill a glowing red player without repercussions. So, by default, your UI is set up so that you won't attack normal players, but you can attack criminal players. To engage in player versus player combat, you have to actually go into your UI and change the default flag. Tell me if I'm going too fast on any of this, or if it all makes sense to you guys.
No.
Everything's fine for me.
Okay. Sorry. So that all the dungeons are open to player versus player combat. We highly encourage people to stay in groups. One, because it's more effective against the monsters in the dungeons, but two, it's also nice to have friends, just in case someone that's glowing red shows up and decides they want to kill you and steal the cool new sword that you have. So there's always lots of things to think about. The only time you're safe in the game is when you're a new character until you go advance to soul level 2, which is typically around character level 6 or 7. Until you advance to soul level 2, you are safe and people can't PvP you. That's pretty much the gist of the game. Again, what we try to always talk about is how Wizardry Online is staying true to the Wizardry franchise. Really, there's so many customizations you can make to your character. One thing we didn't talk about, but I'll mention real quick, is that you can actually, as you progress in the game, you can try to multi-class your character. So those of you that are playing Mage right now, if you go into your skill tree and look, you've got some really cool abilities, some cool skills. When you multi-class, you go and you start back over at level 1. But what you can do is you keep your soul level, so you have those advantages, and you can keep up to five or six different skills, depending on how high you advance, from your skill tree. So you can keep, Fireball, you can keep the Whirlwind effect, and then you can go start playing as a warrior. So now you're leveling up your character as a warrior with the warrior skills, but you've also kept some of those mage skills. So you're kind of a combo. You're kind of a mage fighter. And you can multi-class as many times as you want, as long as you're willing to put the time and effort in. You could then, go and start leveling up a priest and get some really good heal abilities. Then you could keep some of those mage abilities, some of those priest abilities, and then start a fighter. So depending on how much time and effort you're willing to put into your character, you can make whatever you want in the game. That's pretty much it. Where we're at right now is the shop, the blacksmith. Right. So one of the other things, Gershon's pointing out, one of the other things you want to do when you play the game, besides resting and leveling up in town, is you want to come to the blacksmith and you want to repair your equipment that you're wearing. When you guys are when you give them the press tour, you'll probably want to log on to those accounts after the tour is over. Bring those characters to the blacksmith and repair the items, because if you hit the B button and look at your character again, you can see the percentages right there on each item. It shows you, how degraded the equipment is. So you always want to come to the blacksmith, repair all, and get the equipment back up to 100%. At the blacksmith, you also have the ability to increase the damage to your weapons. It's a skill, and when you click on the blacksmith, can you click on him real quick? You can see one of the options when you're talking to him is you can repair your items, you can forge items, and then you can also purchase stuff. So forging is more of a higher level activity in the game. Forging is a big part of the game in Japan, and we expect it to be in the U.S. and Europe as well, where players, they take the items they find in dungeons and they go to the forge, and you're buying stuff from the forge vendor, from the NPC there, to try take the opportunity to try to make your weapon and equipment better. However, when you do so, you run the risk of damaging or losing your equipment. So it's, again, another random factor based on how much you're willing to purchase from the vendors to make your items better and to improve your chances of increasing the weapon. Well, anyhow, that pretty much sums up the game in generalities.
Mm-hmm.
There's certainly a lot that makes Wizardry, in our opinion, stand out from other MMOs. It's tough sometimes when we're giving press tours to make sure that we express all of that to the press. But it really helps if the press has gotten onto their own account and played a little bit. Like you guys all did really good in combat today. That's helpful when you've gotten the basics of how to maneuver around, using tab, knowing how to equip and unequip your weapon, use some of the different skills. In fact, too, you guys are playing mages, and you obviously have to use some of your abilities. So that was really good. All right, well, thanks for joining us on the call today, and we're here to help you guys. Please just let us know if you ever have any questions, or if you want to run through it, or you even want help giving a tour. We're happy to help.
Thank you.
All right, well, thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very
Right,
much.
love you,
Bye-bye.
thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.